Okay, I'm at 2 o'clock, so let's get started with today's webinar. Good afternoon, everybody. So today's webinar is going to be on how to keep property investment simple and profitable. So my name is Sam Clayton. I am the franchise manager here at Sourced. So my role is to manage the selection process when you join the network, build a profile of Sourced in the industry, help new starters select their gold mine area. So we've got Chris Kirkwood, who's on here today with us. He's the franchise director. I'll let him go through his journey so far.
Hi guys, thanks very much for being on the webinar. So I'm the franchise director here at Sourced. I've been involved in property for quite a few years now, different property strategies, different property companies, different focuses in property, and now it's my responsibility to look after all of our franchisees. We've got about 100, all doing different things, all got very different focuses. How they made those decisions of what they're looking at, we'll go into in a little while. But a huge amount of involvement in helping people make money out of property. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so there's essentially 5 arms to the business. You've got Source Property, Source Capital, Source Development, Source Care, and Source Franchise. So the other 4 arms work for the franchisees. So you've got Source Property. This is typically where our franchisees will sell the deals on for a fee. So the sourcing, packaging deals and selling them on. Capital, so this is our peer-to-peer arm. This is where we can potentially do 100% funding for our franchisees if the numbers work. I'll go through that in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. Development, so as a business, we've got £270 million worth of developments, and we give our franchisees the opportunity to sell any of our off-plan, and we pay them an 8% fee for that. And then we've got the care arm that we launched last year, and the reason we've launched this arm is because of the potential profit margins. So it typically gets valued on rental yield as opposed to bricks and mortar. And then you've got the franchise that works for all the others. So successful so far. So we launched the pilot scheme in January 2017, and we launched the franchise model in September 2017. August 2018, we became FCA approved, so we're regulated by the FCA. And then in October 2018, we hit 40 franchisees. In February 2019, we launched our largest development to date. This is based in Manchester. It's called Regent's Plaza. So it's a £150 million development. It's going to be made up of 525 units. And as I said earlier, we give our franchisees the opportunity to sell them off plan, and we pay them an 8% fee. In March 2019, we became approved for ISA and pension funding. So this was massive for the business. A lot of the funding will come from ISA and pension. And the big benefit with the ISA is you can invest up to £20,000 and get tax-free returns on your money. In September 2019, we launched the Source Care. In November 2019, we hit 60 franchisees. Since January 2020, we've raised over £1 million on the peer-to-peer platform every month. And finally, in July 2020, we hit a massive milestone as a business, and we hit 100 franchisees. I think it's important to add at this point that we brought extra support in the form of Abby, who's looking after the south. We've since just recently taken on Pete, who is going to be looking after the north. And we're currently looking for somebody who's going to be working on the Midlands. So that's our journey so far. So today's webinar, how to keep property investments simple and profitable. In property, you can mix and match strategies, contracts, finance options, and different types of dwellings and use classes. The multitude of options means that anyone can get started in this exciting industry, regardless of your experience or the funds you have. So what do most people do when they come into the property industry? Well, what I find with a lot of the meetings that I have is people will, as I say, try and run before they can walk. So they'll try and do things that they're not ready to do. I think it's massively important to walk the ladder the right way so that you can understand the foundations of property, putting the deals together, and then move into the property development when you're ready to do so, when you understand the input in terms of funds. So, Chris, have you got anything that you want to add there?
First of all, I'd completely agree with you. We see a lot of people who, once they've come through our training, because our training is different from everybody else's. Our training focuses on the understanding of contracts and finance. And when you understand that property is just a mixture of contracts and finance, you can pretty much do anything. Now, theoretically you can do anything, but that doesn't mean that you have the experience to do anything. So even though we give you the knowledge that you'll take all the way through your property journey, you still need to understand what your experience is and build your company as if you know, as you would any other company. You know, you build, you gain experience, you go into bigger deals, you gain experience, you go into bigger deals, and so on. So first of all, I completely agree with people trying to run before they walk, and we see that happening a lot. The other thing that I would say that is that people have, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, they have the shiny penny syndrome. And the shiny penny syndrome is sort of really well known as something where you look at something else and it looks shinier than what you're currently trying to aim at. It looks better, it looks bigger, it looks like you can make more money out of it. I'd sort of twist that a little bit, and I think the shiny penny syndrome is more about people get the basic information for a strategy. Let's say, you know, a standard flip. They get the basic information and they try it and it's hard, and they weren't expecting it to be hard. And so they look at the next strategy along, and let's say that the next strategy is rent to rent. And because they've got the basic information, it looks easy. But then when they move over to it and they try it, it's actually a lot harder than they were expecting. So I think if people had a combination of understanding that whatever you get into, whatever you put your mind to, whatever strategy you choose, you've got to put in the graft, you've got to put in the effort, and it will be difficult. It will be difficult because it's a competitive market out there. So if you have the tenacity to stay with one thing and build momentum in that thing, and you had the patience to not go too much too soon, not go for the massive deals that could net you, you know, £600,000, but then it's not going to net you £600,000 for 2 years, to have the patience to build your cash flow as well, exactly like we teach, then I think that opens the door to success for you. And that's what I would say. A combination of those two things, I think, would make a big difference to the vast majority of people that get started in property.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Chris. So what's right for me? So the right strategy for you takes a combination of factors into consideration. So we've got market conditions, lending conditions, personal situation, financial situation. And what I'd like to add in there is the area that you are operating in. I think that's a massive part of, you know, choosing the right strategy, what works in the area that you live in. There's going to be strategies that work for you that aren't going to work for the people in the places they live. So an example, Nadia from sourced East London generated 60k in profit within 8 weeks. And I'll let Chris explain how she did that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Nadia, all of those things that we looked at right there. So Nadia joined us and we went through our goal setting brochure. So when you come on induction, one of the documents that you'll get from us is a big brochure about your goal setting. So Nadia went through that document and she predicted what her she forecast or wrote down what she wanted her 12-month goal to be. And then we brought that back and we went through a plan of how exactly she's going to achieve that 12-month goal. So we sat her down and we went through that as a process. When we went through that process, we had a very, very clear path which she needed to follow. And the path to start off with was assisted sales. So what Nadia did was she focused on assisted sales. She talked to absolutely everybody that she could about her ability to facilitate assisted sales. She talked to estate agents. She talked to people at school, at her daughter's school, should I say, because she's not going to school anymore. And she talked to anybody that she could about assisted sales. And what happened was she started to get opportunities because she focused and she was very clear about what she wanted to do. So this assisted sale opportunity, this is actually an image from that property as well. That's obviously the finished property. I don't know why we're looking at the corridor. There are some absolutely beautiful rooms in that property that Nadia renovated. It was a shambles when she first took it on, but she made it look absolutely stunning. And she did that by getting the lead from somebody at the school gates. So she was talking to people about it and somebody said, yep, absolutely. I know somebody that's exactly in the situation that you're talking about. Perhaps you could have a conversation with them. And it all started from that conversation, and that conversation led to £60,000.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so what are your options? There are a number of strategies you can focus on. As long as you stay consistent, you will make progress. Success is about building momentum. So a little bit like Chris said earlier, it's all about making sure that you're understanding, you're learning as you're making your money. Let's look at some of the options and the ways that, simple ways of making money through property with little input in terms of your own cash. So sourcing, massive part of building your cash flow up. So sourcing investment opportunities for investors in exchange for a fee. Timescales. So the sourcing fee is usually paid up on exchange, and the returns is typically 2% of the purchase price. So our tips in this with sourcing and deal packaging, I think it's massively important that you build relationships up with your local estate agents, developers. And how you do that is we tell our franchisees to use the brand. We've got 130,000 investors looking for investment opportunities. We've got over 270 million pounds worth of development. So from a business point of view, we know what we're talking about, and that alone should put you straight to the top of the list. And then another massive part is your network. So building your network up as you go. Obviously, the more investors that you can build, it makes your life a lot easier. So once you've got investors, you know exactly what they're looking for. So rather than looking for an opportunity, then trying to find the investor, you're then just trying to find the opportunity because you know exactly what that investor's looking for.
Can I just jump in there, Sam, for a second and talk about sourcing? I want to make it clear as well. I think sourcing has a bit of a bad reputation in the property world, and I think sourcing is seen by a lot of people as being the entry level into making money out of property, and I couldn't disagree more. It is a great way to come into property and start to build your name, build your brand in property, because with sourcing, generally you don't need any money to get into it, and that's why a lot of people come into sourcing. Now, what we teach and what we think is a really intelligent way to use sourcing is, no matter where you are on the graph of of success within property, no matter what your strategy is, no matter whether you're looking at deals worth 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 or 10 million, I would argue that sourcing is always a really great strategy to fall back on. For example, I still source and package deals. I know Steve, the managing director here at Source, he still sources and packages deals. And we have some franchisees who are building new build developments, lots of different units in this new build development, but they're always looking to source and package deals on, because if you do it well and you build your list and you are open and transparent about all the fees, then you could easily source and sell one deal per month, which would net you £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 every single month. Now that makes a massive difference to your cash flow, no matter whether you're starting out or you've been in property for 5 years. Huge difference. And so I would argue, and if you are in property and you're looking at, you're building sites and you're doing new build, you're still going to get property opportunities that come across your path. So make the most of them instead of turning them away. If you've got a systemized and sensible approach to how you can use them, then you can make that 3, 4 or 5 grand without too much difficulty. So first of all, I want to make it clear that I think sourcing is something that almost everybody that's involved in property should be doing. The second thing that I want to say about sourcing is sourcing doesn't have to be that side strategy. We have one franchisee who focuses on sourcing solely. And that franchisee, because he focuses on sourcing and he's built up a very systemized business, he can turn over 30, 40 or 50,000 pounds every single month in sourcing, packaging and selling deals. So sourcing, don't just look at these things and think, oh, I've heard about sourcing, I don't really want to get involved in it. Look at the benefits of it and see how it can help you, because there's a huge amount that you can get from just sourcing and packaging deals. And this is only the first one that we've looked at. So back to you, Sam, to go on to the next one.
Yeah. So with Rent HMO, so I'll let Chris talk through this. He specialises in Rent done it for a number of years, and I think it's another massive important part of getting, building your portfolio up.
Yeah. Okay. So back to me again. So Rent is, I built a Rent business, and to sort of fall back on something that I was that I was saying to you earlier. One of the things that I did with the Rent business was I failed. And between 6 and 12 months when I first started the Rent business, I had absolutely no joy whatsoever. But I knew what I was doing and the offering that I had was good. So I stuck with it, and I tweaked my processes, tweaked the way that I talked to estate agents. And I made a difference to the point where I then signed up 4 properties within the next 12 months. And each one of those 4 properties made me at least £1,000 net per month. So going from 0 and failing and, you know, feeling like I wasn't getting anywhere to then having a recurring £4,000 per month coming into my bank account within the next 12 months. Rent to rent is a fantastic strategy, whether you're going to go down the HMO route or the serviced accommodation route. It does need a little bit of capital to start off, but not that much. And there are really interesting ways, again, that we teach that you can use sourcing and rent to rent at the same time. You can mix those strategies together in order to sell a deal to somebody and offer them guaranteed rent on the deal that they're buying. So yeah, rent to rent's a fantastic strategy. What I did with that company at the end, I got it up to a portfolio of 6 rent to rent properties. I had them all in one limited company, and then I sold that company as an ongoing concern. So not only made money month after month after month, but made a really great lump sum at the end of selling that. But going back to what I was saying, consistency, you know, not looking at another strategy and thinking that's going to be an easier strategy, sticking with it and getting your head down, just doing the work and making it work was absolutely critical in rent to rent. And one of the good things that I would say about rent to rent is I think it's one of the best strategies to get into when you first start, because when you get into rent to rent, everybody hates you. Everybody that you deal with doesn't want to talk to you. And so you've very quickly got to devise a way of having a conversation that they're interested in. Estate agents hate you because they think that you're stealing their business. Landlords hate you because they think that you're going to wreck their houses. Tenants hate you because they think that you're an agent and you don't care about the properties. Everybody hates you. So it's a really great way to, you know, build a thicker skin than you might have at the minute, but also think about your processes and think about the ways that you're communicating with people to get the best out of each and every conversation that you have with them.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. So off-plan. So we give our franchisees, as I touched on earlier, the opportunity to sell any of our off-plan units, and we pay them an 8% fee for that. So timescales, it's 28 days max with ourselves. So you can be looking at your money within 28 days. And the average return is £16,000. So our tips with this is, now we've got brochures for all of our off-plan that we sell. What we would advise, if you as a franchisee, familiarize yourself with the securities that the investor gets first of all, because that's a massive part of it. So what securities the investor gets should they invest into any of our off-plan, and then doing your comparables in the area of where we are selling our off-plan. So just coming across as an expert, so you're not just simply sharing a brochure over to them. And then, as I say, you can make a substantial amount of money from the off-plan units as well. Assisted sale. So you, a little bit like Nadi, you find a house that needs a refurb, you work with the owner, they put in the house, you pay for the refurb. Great capital uplift, which you keeps your costs low as you don't need to buy the house. Quicker to execute as you only need to go through conveyancing once. So the 2 major benefits to an assisted sale is, first of all, you don't own the property, so you don't pay stamp duty. And the second benefit is, because it's all done via contracts, you can move on it relatively quick, so it speeds up the process of how quickly you're going to be earning money. Flips. So this is the most competitive part of the market. You learn how to identify 5 to 10 opportunities instead of just a 1 out of 10. And the way you structure the deal is critical. And you can start making larger pots of money. Massively important, your cash flow needs to be sorted before you can move up to flips. Anything you want to add on that one, Chris?
Yeah, I want to go back to point number 2, which is that you'll learn to identify 5 out of 10 opportunities instead of 1 out of 10. Now, flips is a really competitive part of the market because everybody understands a flip, don't they? If you had £50,000 in your pocket, you know that you'd be able to go out there, you'd be able to buy a house that smells dodgy, you'd be able to do that house up and you'd be able to sell it for more than you bought it for. Everybody understands that. Because it's so competitive, what you need to be able to do is understand when a deal works or not. Because if you're just coming at it, you've got 50 grand, you don't have any experience, you don't have any coaching, or you don't have any teaching, then you're going to do the basic numbers because you only understand how to maybe buy it with a mortgage and then do it up and sell it on. Going back to the point that I made earlier, if you understand finance and you understand contracts, which is exactly what we teach, then you will understand that you'll be able to convert 5 out of 10 opportunities instead of the 1 out of 10 opportunities that you previously thought that you'd be able to convert before you had this understanding of finance and contracts. You know, for example, a lot of flips are for sale through standard estate agents. So everybody has access to them. But if you don't know how bridging works, and if you don't know how peer-to-peer investing works, and you don't know how to access JV finance, then potentially you're not going to be able to convert as many. Going back to the assisted sale, there are 3 contracts that are that you need to use for an assisted sale. Now, if you don't know about those contracts, you'll have no idea that you've got access to this phenomenally powerful thing that allows you to make the most out of the capital uplift of a property without even owning it. And flips are exactly the same. There are a lot of contracts that are at your disposal that you can use to convert more opportunities. And the great thing about those, the difference between 1 out of 10 and 5 out of 10 is obviously 4 out of 10. The great difference between those 4 is that the majority of other people that are looking for flips will have no idea that you can do what we're going to show you how you can do. Back to you, Sam.
Fantastic. So build your property business and create financial freedom. That's what we're all wanting to do. So the network itself, so we're at over 100 offices now, extensive training, bespoke software, qualified leads, exclusive funds, and then a massive part now is the ongoing support. So you've got Abby and Pete now they're both targeted on the franchisees' performances. So it just speeds up the process. So they're incentivized on you bringing the deals to us quicker. And obviously, the quicker you can bring the deals to us, the quicker we can get funded, and we're all making money from that. So in terms of training, so we hold over 70 days training per year, and we cover all the different strategies. Let's go through that. So you've got your initial induction, sourcing, and deal packaging. So this is compulsory, so you must attend. So the first day is your induction. Now that is going through the CRM system, so you understand how to use the different tools that we've got on there. And then it's going through your 12-month goals, so what your targets are going to be for the first 12 months, where you want to be. Obviously, we've got people who come in who are raw to property, who come brand new. And then we've got people who have got over 35 years experience in the network, and we've all got different goals and different things we want to achieve. The next 2 days is around sourcing and deal packaging, so finding, identifying opportunities and putting them together, so understanding the foundations and putting the deals together. You then get access to the 73 training days. Now, these are all 2-day courses. They are funding investors, lease options and HMO, support days north and south, rent-to-rent and service accommodation training, commercial conversions and planning, flips and refurbs, and then new build developments. So as I said, they're all 2-day courses. Now, we will pay for your hotels for the first loop of all the training. You could attend these as many times as you wish, but you just need to pay for your own hotels the second time round. With the support days, so we currently hold one in the north, one in the south, and we will be holding one in the Midlands. They are bi-monthly. So these are a little bit different in the fact that they're more of a mastermind day. So 6 to 7 people in a room, spending an hour on your business, helping you with whatever it is you're needing help with at that current time. And then all the training is repeated every 4 months. So each course is run twice a year. So if you miss funding investors early on in the year, you can attend it a little bit later on. So we can do up to 100% funding for our franchisees. Now, the golden rule for us is we can loan 70% of the GDV, so the gross development value. So I'll just give you a quick example of that. So if you've got a deal that's got a gross development value of 500,000, we can loan 70% of that, which is 350,000. So if you've got a deal that's, let's say, 150,000 pounds to purchase, 200,000 pounds development costs, you need 350,000, and then it's got a GDV of 500,000. We can fully fund that deal, so we can put all the monies in for you to do that. So as a business, we generate over 35,000 leads per year. They are commercial, portfolio, HMO, refurbishments, planning, apartments, rent-to-rent, and BMV. So they'll come directly through to your CRM system and for you to utilize from the training that we've provided, or of course your own knowledge. So as a business, we've got over 130,000 investors now, and that's over 69 countries, and it's increasing by 300 every week. In terms of support, so what support we offer, so you've got bi-monthly support days, monthly training events, dedicated account manager, unlimited deal reviews, monthly one-to-one calls, optional one-to-one visits, and then email, phone, and video support. So let's have a look at a couple of the franchisees and the journeys they've taken with us so far. So Everton is a really good story in the fact that he started part-time with us. He's now full-time in property. He's, walked the ladder the right way. He started with us. He understood it was massively important to understand the foundations of putting the deals together. He sourced and packaged a deal for 1.2 million, generating a £24,000 sourcing fee. He sourced and packaged for just over a year. He's actually just recently had his first deal fully funded on the platform that's going to make him around £70,000 in profit. So he's now project managing and he's full-time in property. So Everton's a really good story. He built his network of people up, got himself where he's sourcing and packaging, making a good amount of cash each month in his cash flow. And now he's moved on to the project management, and I'm sure he'll scale up to an even bigger deal next time. So this is Chris Richardson. So he's in Bournemouth. So this particular deal, a little bit different. This was a conversion of offices into 14 apartments. So after we converted it into the apartments, it's then going to be run as serviced accommodation for 6 months. We're then going to refinance this and pay off the investors that put the monies in. The GDV will be 2.2 million. With this particular one, we're actually going to buy this one back as a business. We're then going to get it secured on a 25-year lease as assisted living. So we've got a care provider in place, and the GDV will go from 2.2 million up to 2.8 million. So the purchase price on this one was 875k, and the profit is £1 million. So a nice deal. So what's the running cost, package and setup? So you become part of a national brand and unique network. You receive an exclusive territory of 40,000 households. Induction training, focus on operation, detail, sourcing and deal packaging. A proven business model with support and operations manual, and then exposure on the property website, attracting thousands of monthly investors. So that's £12,500 plus VAT. So that's a one-off fee. That's for 5 years with ourselves. And if you wanted to continue for a further 5 years, it's £1,000, and that's just the setup it costs. That's what it costs us to set you back up. So your management fee, so this starts the month after induction. So any time before that, classed as a free period. And this is for the property leads, investor leads, email, phone and video support, national brand marketing, bi-monthly support days, access to the peer-to-peer platform, monthly training events, sim management, so the networking events should you wish to run them. And then massively important, all the legal documents and contracts on the CRM system. So that's £200 per month. And we take 5% of your net profit. Well, that's capped at £100,000 per annum. And finally, we work on the basis that we make money if you make money. So that's the end of today's webinar. We're going to hang around for a few minutes, myself and Chris, and we can answer any questions that any of you have. So if you just want to write them in if you've got any questions, that'd be great.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat box, Sam. Are you? Are you looking at the Q&A section? Because they can come from either one, Q&A or chat box. So either one you want to use, guys, just feel free.
Yeah, I'm on the Q&A.
First one coming in. You see that one, Sam?
Yeah. So who determines what the GDV of the property will be? So an independent RIC surveyor is the answer to that question. So that's what we ask you to do. That is at your own cost.
When we're looking at going through the due diligence, though, I mean, the first stage of the due diligence is to make sure that every property that you look at doesn't cost you something. So we'll go through the due diligence with you in our CRM system. So you'll put the property into the CRM, you'll send it across to us. We'll give you our opinion of the strategy that you've chosen for it and the viability of that happening. And in that, you'll put your comparables and the comparables for that end result. So let's say you're taking a 3-bedroom property and you're turning it into a 5-bedroom luxury home. Let's, just keep it very simple. So your end comparables will be for 5-bedroom luxury homes, because that's what you're going to be able to sell it for. And obviously you need to make sure that that's within a quarter of a mile and the same unit type and sold within a year, ideally. So you'll look at your comparables, and we'll look at the comparables as well, and we'll compare them, and we'll come together at what we think is a sensible GDV. Now, if the GDV works at that point, if the whole deal stacks up because of the comparables that we found, then we would put the offer in, we'd try and get the property secured, and then we'd go through to the RICS surveyor. So only at that point, once we've got some security over the property and we've done our homework to make sure that the deal is going to work, would we then go through to the RICS surveyor in order to spend some money and get that RICS survey report, valuation report, that we can then use for funding. So that's the process that we'd stick with. So let's get rid of that one now. On to Colin. As far as capital is required, is there a minimum amount needed to get started? So Sam, you probably answer this question more than I do, so I'll go over to you.
Yeah, no, so the answer to that is it all depends on what strategy you're looking at. Obviously, you need the money. What we'll look at is making sure that you've got, first of all, the money for the initial franchise fee, and then that you can still live while you're working. So we'll ask for a minimum of 2 days input. So if you can go to a part-time, that's fantastic. But in terms of capital required, it's all down to the whole point of this webinar really today is to show you that it's not just about, you don't necessarily need funds. If you're sourcing and deal packaging, there's nothing goes into that. And then there's minimal with the rest of them. Anything else you want to answer there with that, Chris? Anything else you want to put in?
No, that's good. Yeah. So on to Sean next. What does the one-to-one training involve? So one-to-one training. So the support guys that we've been employing over the last few months, they have a maximum number of franchisees that they can look after at any one time, and that's 30 franchisees. So the main training events are held as in company-wide. So any franchisee can jump onto those training events. After that, the support given by the local person near to you, that can be whatever is necessary. So they've got a completely open brief to provide you the help and support that you need. Now, in some cases, that is going to be one-to-one training, and they can come out and they can do one-to-one training with you. In some cases, it's going to be sort of an accountability mentor rather than actual training. And in some cases, it's going to be, jump on a Zoom call every 2 weeks and you're absolutely fine with that. That's all you need in order to build your business and go forward. So in terms of the one-to-one training, it just depends on exactly what is necessary. The local support people won't give you one-to-one training for the same courses that we offer nationwide. You need to come onto those courses in order to get that education. The support people that will work directly with you, that's all about the implementation of that knowledge that you've learned. So you learn it on the courses, you apply it with the support person. So that's how we structure that. Thanks for the question, though, Sean. And on to James. So James, who's the most unsuccessful franchise? Wow, that is absolutely cut straight to the heart there, James. But it's a great question and it's totally relevant. I would say, as the franchise director, have we had unsuccessful franchisees? Absolutely, 100%. Yes, we have. We try to be as transparent as we can be with all of the information that we give you guys. We have had unsuccessful franchisees, and I would say that the most unsuccessful people have been those who have come in and they haven't listened to the words we say when we tell them that it's going to be hard work, right? I mean, we're on a webinar now. We have no commitment to you guys at the moment on this webinar. It's great that you've popped up on this webinar, but the first thing that we talk about is that it's going to be hard work. Okay, you've got to get your head down and you've got to go for it. And you're probably going to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and it's probably going to be difficult, but we're here to walk that journey with you. We're here to put our arm around your shoulder when you need it, to give you a kick up the arse when you need it, to be with you every step of the way. That's what we do. The people who we've done that for, and then they still haven't picked up the phone and talked to estate agents, put offers in, just, walked into an estate agent and started to build relationships, because property is all about relationships. Those people who haven't put that effort in haven't seen the results. No matter how much we worked with them, gave them options, gone out to their patch, gone into estate agents with them. As soon as you leave them, they're not doing it themselves. I'd say they're the guys that have been the least successful, to be completely open and transparent with you. Would you add anything to that, Sam?
No, I think you've covered it all, really. I mean, any franchise is going to have people that are unsuccessful. I think it's about what you put in, and we give now 73 training days. We've gone from 5 days to 73 training days, and I think it shows that as a business, it's massively important that you do well for us, because we're not making money unless you're bringing opportunities to us. So the support is massive from our side, and it's a good question. But yes, you're going to get people that don't put the time in or the effort, or just simply don't understand it. But that's like any franchise or anything that you do in life. You're going to get people that's unsuccessful, unfortunately. What I'll do, there's a question just come in on the chat as well, Chris. I'll just cover that one. So in terms of the areas covered, so good question, Mike. So you get 40,000 households as part of your territory. But you aren't restricted, so it's massively important for you to understand that you can trade anywhere in the UK. The whole point of the territory really is so that, first of all, you can build your relationships up in that area. You tend to know that area a little bit better. You get your source branded name, so it's easier for building your relationships up. And the second thing is so that we can generate leads. So we generate property leads for you in your territory. We send them through to your CRM system. But yeah, again, massively important that you can trade anywhere in the UK. Doesn't make sense from a business point of view to restrict you. It's just so that you focus on an area and that we can help you within that area.
So on to the next question from the Q&A, which is, I'm an overseas investor. Will you take care of groundwork, manage the refurb, letting agent, etc.? So it's a good question, Georgios, and thanks very much for putting that through to us. What I would say is it would be better for you to work with one of our franchisees. So if you're looking to invest in an area, if you're looking for a project, what you should do is you should work with one of our franchisees who is trained by us. You can identify the project that you want to purchase. You can purchase it through them, and then they can do the project management for you. We don't do that at HQ. We support the franchisees delivering that kind of service. So by all means, what I think you should do is make sure that you subscribe to our email list and make sure that you can see the deals that go out every single day. And if any of them take your fancy, you'll click on the email list and it'll take you through to the website. And from there, you can make contact with the franchisee who is selling that deal. So I hope that helps you.
Yeah, so what I'd just like to add there as well, we have got a partner arm of the business now. It might be something that you can have a quick look into, see if that works for you.
Okie dokie, and on to Sophie's question. If we want to be part-time, is there a minimum recommended amount of time you recommend? So Sam, that's over to you.
Yeah, that's it. So we would recommend a minimum of 2 days. So part of my process is to find out how much time you can put into this. We found that you need to really be putting 2 days a minimum into this to be successful, and that's what I'll look for from you when I do that initial call.
Excellent, thank you. So Sophie, you've asked for a bit of clarification on the 40,000 households. So let's just go into that a little bit more. So you have an exclusive territory of 40,000 households. Now, the 40,000 households will be a combination of postcodes, and all of those postcodes need to be touching. That is your territory. Now, to start off with, other franchisees will not be able to find a property and sell that property or develop that property in your area without you having knowledge of it and your say so. Now, what we find that a lot of franchisees do that are close to each other is they say, listen, I'm finding opportunities in your area, you're finding opportunities in my area. Why don't we just work on the basis that I'll take one from you and you can take one from me? And that seems to work really well. We've got a number of franchisees doing that specifically in Liverpool. And that sort of, a give and take strategy works really well. But they need to make sure that they confirm with the franchisee who owns the territory before they take any of those properties, because you can trade anywhere in the UK. If there's another franchisee there in the area where you want to take that property, you just need to have a chat with them first. And make sure that you're okay with it and they're okay with it.
I think the other side to it as well, Chris, is that with that, the franchisee in that area might have a management team that they could put in place. There's a lot that can be a benefit from that. So being part of the network is massively important in that regard as well. They know that area. So if you're asking them questions about a deal that you're looking at, making sure that you have done your numbers right, your comparables are right, they are experts in that area. And that's the whole point of them having that territory. I think it's worth adding in.
Yeah, it's a really good point. There's the next 3 questions as well, Sam, are more about setting up. So I'm going to leave these next 3 questions to you, okay?
Yeah, so I live in Manchester, but from Huddersfield and know the property market area better in Huddersfield and Manchester. Which one would you go for? Where you live or the area you know best? Well, I mean, it's entirely up to you at the end of the day, James. So that's very important to add. But in all honesty, I would say where you live, because you're going to have to go out, build your relationships. If you're happy to keep traveling to and from Huddersfield, we have got franchisees that have done that. But is it realistic for you to be traveling, building your relationships up in that area? That's a decision that you're going to have to make. Personally, I would say that you're better sticking to where you live. It's going to be easier, and then just utilize the training that we provide to build up your network and build up your understanding of that area.
Yeah, great. And on to Mike. Mike's question for you, Sam.
So each one. So in terms of, well, it depends on the area. So Manchester, we've got around 7 people based in Manchester. As long as we can cover it and it's not touching another person's area as such, then we can potentially give you that franchise area. That's your answer.
And to Sophie's finally.
What's the difference between a partner and a franchisee? Okay, so that with the partner side, it's people who they don't want to really get in property. They want to make more of a hands-off, a cash flow. So they're building a HMO portfolio. So this network, it's more for people who's wanting to get involved in property, do project management, and basically go full-time into property.
Okay. And if you want more details on that, Sophie, you can go to our website. This question from the anonymous attendee, which is all a little bit cloak and dagger, but the question is: do you disregard any areas in the UK, as in you wouldn't accept the lead put forward? I don't really know what you mean by the word lead. Sam, have you got any? Do you understand that better than me?
I think. Well, I'm guessing he's getting at more what we was talking about actually a few months ago, Chris. So you'd be good to answer this. If I'm thinking he's meaning, is there a certain area that you would say, look, don't, that I wouldn't start here? I think when we spoke about it, if you remember a few months ago, we spoke about dropping you in an area and finding opportunities to prove that,
right, yeah.
find opportunities anywhere. You're not, it's not a case of there's only opportunities in this area. And like we said earlier on in the webinar, some strategies are going to work in certain areas and some aren't. But yeah, what do you think there, Chris?
I've never been given the challenge of an area where I haven't been able to find property leads, and that's what it's all about. Because you're going to be able to access finance wherever you are. You're going to be able to access investors from wherever you are, because investors come from all over the world. So the one question that you're really asking to answer is, will you find properties that will present an opportunity for you? Absolutely. I have some people, and not within this franchise, from outside of the franchise, have challenged me to find leads in different areas, and I've always been able to do it from using the strategies that we teach on the day 2 of your training in sourcing. We teach these strategies, and if I use those strategies, I will find leads absolutely anywhere, and that's just from looking online. That doesn't include then going into that area, talking to estate agents, building momentum, actually building the business properly by putting my boots on the ground. I can absolutely find property deals, and if you can find property deals, that's all that matters. You will be able to build a business. So from my point of view, there's no part of the UK I think that doesn't work.
Perfect, Chris. So I think that's all the questions answered. So
We've got one more in the chat.
Yeah, it's basically the same as what we've just spoken about.
Right, yeah, I see. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so if you do have any more questions, feel free to reach out to myself. You can get me at franchise@source.co. Alternatively, you can email me directly. It's sam.clayton@source.co. And I'm happy to answer any questions, set up a call if you're interested, and we can go through it in a little bit of detail and see if it's potentially right for you. So thank you everyone for attending today, and catch up with you all soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.